Hello, world. Welcome to this week's episode of Great Employees Matter, the podcast that focuses on helping employees become better and helping employers understand that their job is to take care of their employees, their most valuable asset. Today, our topic is respect in the workplace. As you all know, about once a month, we like to have a training session. So rather than having a guest on the show, we just train on a specific topic. This week's topic or this month's topic is respect in the workplace. At this stage, I normally turn it over to Koby, who says, please subscribe, like, comment, do all that sort of stuff that helps our channel grow. So I'm asking you to do that because since we don't have a guest, then Koby doesn't get to do his normal, tell us your story. How did you arrive at this place? So we're gonna jump right in, and even before we define what respect is and what respect is in the workplace, each of us are going to share a short story of a type of respect, both negative and positive. Mine, I'm going to comment on the fact that I have worked in an environment in the past. Name of the company shall remain unnamed, but it was a company that had several owners, and one of the owners was very fond of going around the company and walking up to employees and saying to them very publicly, I'm one of the owners of this company, and our agreement with each other is that any one of us can fire any employee for whatever reason without having to get the approval or agreement from the other owners. That is an incredible, disrespectful statement. It's disrespectful to the employee, and the reason that he did it is because he lacked some self-respect and some self-confidence, and that was his way of pumping himself up and letting other people know that he's important. But it's just a horrible way to run a business. It's a horrible way to create any type of loyalty from your staff, to have them sit on the edge and worry about somebody coming in and having a bad day. You get up in the morning, you have an argument with your wife, and so you go out and take it out on your staff. And, well, I just want you to know that I can fire you at any time, and I don't have to get the approval of my partners. So that's just an example of a negative disrespect or lack of respect. Koby, do you have any examples?
Oh, I'm glad you let me talk. So everybody, actually, Jimmy forgets who the boss is around here. And so I do want to say welcome to the show. I do want to say please like, share, and comment, join us. But I do got something new this week. This week we may try taking in some phone calls. So later on, we'll put the number up there if you guys want to chime in on the subject and chime in on the conversation. Feel free to do so, and we'll go from there. But welcome. Thank you for joining us. And I'll give you, we don't have a guest today, and I'm not going to give you a background on our guest, but I will give you a background on our company, Great Employees Matter, right? And so basically, we started this company. It's an employee program, but it's really a personal development program disguised as an employee program. So we educate based on everything. You want to go let him out, Jimmy? Based on everything regarding your personal development, and you learn to take that with you, and you go from there. But anyways, so I do have something to add on that. Respect in the workplace is, to me, crucial both ways, from the employer and from the employee. And when there's a breakdown in respect and in that authority, it can go,
I did it. No problem.
in a way to where it not go. So it's not supposed to go. So I want to ask you, Jimmy, in that situation, how did you get through it? Did you guys get through that situation?
Yeah, well, my role was really to be the mediator between ownership and staff. And so invariably I would have to, especially if I was aware of whom he may have said it to specifically, I would take that person aside and just explain that that's not anything personal against them as an individual. It was just something that he needed to do for himself, just because of the type of person that he was. Again, he lacked a lot of self-confidence, and he needed to let people know how important he was. And I feel bad for him. I feel bad for owners that find themselves in that type of a situation. But it's important for us as Great Employees Matter to communicate to businesses and let them know how inappropriate that is and how damaging it is. And we all know that it's important to take care of your staff. Again, they are, in fact, any business's most important asset. They're difficult to replace if you have to replace somebody, especially somebody that's good.
Mm-hmm.
And so one should go out of their way to make sure that the staff is recognized, nurtured, appreciated, guided, communicated with effectively, positive in most situations, and even in negative situations. If you respect your employees, even in negative situations, it doesn't have to deteriorate to a bad conversation.
Can we back up a little bit?
Sure.
I want to back up a little bit because the climate now in the economy, and it's pretty volatile. It's real bad right now. And so in today's world, as far as respect and jobs and things like that, it's very difficult. It's a challenging environment. So what do you think is necessary in today's world with the way kids are learning today and understanding and respecting elders today? What do you think could work today in order to improve that situation?
Well, without getting either political or spiritual, both of which are important to address at some point in time. But without doing that, I think that if we as a society could get back to just understanding that everybody is an individual, everybody arrives at where they are because of their life circumstances, because of the path that they've traveled, and that we all deserve respect, the easiest way to do that is simply be kind to each other. If everybody could learn to be kind, you can be kind to your spouse, to your family, to your neighbor, to the stranger on the street. There's no reason not to be kind, because we don't know, we as individuals don't know what that other person went through that day, right? So you might see somebody on the street and they're having an attitude, and unfortunately energies attract each other, and so bad energy typically attracts bad energy. But if you run into somebody, they're having a bad day, and they get on you for whatever reason, the first thing that I try and do, and it's admittedly difficult, but the first thing I try to do is put myself in their shoes and say, well, something's causing this person to react that way. It's not necessarily me. And I give them the benefit of the doubt. And sometimes just by being kind and saying, I'm sorry you're having a bad day. I don't want to add to it. I appreciate what you're saying. Here's my position. You don't have to be in attack mode. Just be kind to people. And if people could be more kind to each other on a regular basis, I think the world would be a better place.
Yeah, I think it comes from a place like, for me, I think I'm having a challenging week. My family's probably having a challenging year, right? And I still have responsibilities and things to do to show up. What do you recommend to people? Because most of the time, it's something that's not part of the situation that you're in, where you're affecting other people and taking that out, like in a job place, where you may come to work because of something that happened at home, and then you go to work, and then respect kind of loses its place because of how you're feeling. How do you work through something like that?
Well, it's the same message. If you can always treat other people the way you want them to treat you, if you can apply the golden rule, then you'll be better off. And that is something that I would try to put in the workplace. Just let them understand, let the employee understand that everyone has bad days. And so just give them license to have a bad day. It's okay. Don't take it personally. If there's a real situation, then you need to have a one-on-one sit down discussion about it and solve the situation. But there's no reason for people to intentionally be disrespectful. And in this conversation, maybe we'll touch on that. Some people are disrespectful because it's just their human nature, and they need to be slapped and said, "Stop." Just stop being that way. And some people just are having a bad day, and they end up being disrespectful, and they don't mean to. And that person, once they are aware of it, should simply say, "I'm sorry," and move forward.
Well, I'm going to say, Chris Booth, welcome to the chat. We really appreciate you coming and checking us out all the time, man. You're an inspiration. Your business is an inspiration. I think your business should be an inspiration to other businesses. You guys do it right. But your comment is great. You said the 4 agreements, and it's number 3. Don't take anything personal. If you guys have not had a chance to read the 4 agreements by Don Miguel, what's his last name? Ruiz. Don Miguel Ruiz, the 4 agreements. And actually, I took some notes here. The 4 agreements are: be impeccable with your word. Don't take anything personally. Don't make assumptions, and always do your best. And if you take those 4 agreements and apply them to your life, you will see things a lot differently, and things will start to change. But thank you for that comment, Chris. We appreciate you.
Yes. So, both of us illustrated a negative respect or lack of respect, a disrespect. Lloyd, do you have a positive one you can share with us?
Thanks, Jimmy. I do have a positive one that I can share with you. It started off with my mother's advice, who said sometimes you really have to hug your enemies very tightly. That's the only way you'll know how deep you've got to dig the hole. It's the positive thing is the definition of respect. And respect really seems to be a catch-all for all kinds of things that we need to have in the workplace. My biggest comment as a lawyer were the people that would come into me, slam down, a pen or a pencil, and say, "I want to sue this person. I want to take them for everything they've got." And when you get to the heart of it, there was a disagreement, and they never even spoke to the person about it. And my first advice to them was always, have you talked to them about it? Have you tried to work it out? And respect is part of that catch-all. A lot of times, if you are able to go through and to talk to the person one-on-one, you would be surprised as to how much progress was made. And I have a lot of success stories about things that were resolved simply by being able to exchange ideas with one another.
No, that's awesome.
So, what is respect? A textbook definition of respect is it's the recognition of the inherent worth, dignity, and rights of others, right? We all are entitled to respect. Now, there are 2 basic types of respect. One is basic respect, right? That which well, actually, I'm gonna let Koby go ahead and go into the definitions. But there's basic respect and there's earned respect, and both of them are very important, very different, but critical to getting along well in life with others. So, Koby, can you share with us what the difference is between basic respect and earned respect?
I think basic respect, that's kind of a hard question for me. Basic respect to me would be just the natural thing that you would do, what you learn from your parents, just treating others as you want to be treated. And that would be basic respect. And earned respect would be somebody who's in a position of authority, and they need to be able to get a larger job done. And out of that larger job done, they have to do things in a way to earn the respect of the people that are trusting them to get that job done. So to me, that would be the difference. I would like to even go further that, not just respect, but if you look at the types of respect, you have you you just have different levels. So like for me, for instance, I don't leave the house or I try to minimize my interaction with people if I'm not in a respectful mood, so to speak, because that happens to all of us. We're human. So for me, it's not like, let's say for instance, if I come here, Jimmy, and I'm not in a great mood, why would I come here to take that out on you and you have nothing to do with it? To me, that's a part of respect. I respect the environment, so I'm going to either get myself together or you won't see me, right? So that's just pretty much how I handle it. I'm not sure if I answered your question though.
No, you did. I think that basically respect, people know how to be polite. You know how to be courteous. You understand in the workplace that there are professional boundaries, right? You don't normally just run into the boss's office to complain about something, right? You have to respect the respect that they earned, right? If they're a good boss, then you as an employee are going to respect them
Okay.
and either make an appointment or knock on the door and say, "Hey, Koby, if you haven't met, I'd like to talk to you about this, that, or the other."
Yeah.
And just asking for that time, respecting that person's time. Both of you have your own time and own things that you need to do. So just being respectful of that, I think is important in the work environment. I think sometimes business owners or people that climb through the management ranks forget that respect is something that needs to be earned.
Yeah.
Especially if you're climbing through the ranks. If you and I started at the same level in a business and we have comparable skills and a promotion opportunity comes up and they select me over you for whatever the reasons are, then there's still no reason to not respect each other, right? There might be some envy, there might be some jealousy, there might be some questioning, well, why did Jimmy get that promotion? I'm equally deserving of it. But ultimately, the ownership needs to make a decision. And so they made the decision, and you need to respect that decision. You need to respect the person that benefited from it, and the person that benefited from it needs to respect that you didn't benefit from it. And they need to earn that respect by going in and saying, aha, instead of saying, I'm the boss now, you report to me. They need to go in and say, what can we do to make sure that our relationship continues to be positive and we're doing the best job that we can for this company?
And that brings me to my next comment. You skipped me as far as telling my negative story. And that brings it right up. I am going to tell that. But before, I do want to acknowledge Dale Shelton. Welcome to the show, Dale. Thank you, as always, for supporting us and being here. We love that. But his question is, I try to be a person who daily that is kind and available so that when a person is at a crisis will feel comfortable to want to come to me for understanding. Wow. Right. That's incredible because I think there's a couple of us that are like that. And that is a very heavy burden to carry. What do you think, Jimmy?
Well, I will attest that Dale Shelton is exactly that type of person. Dale is somebody that everybody that knows him knows that he's somebody that they can go to in confidence and they can have any type of discussion with him and he will respect their boundaries. So I appreciate that in Dale, and I apologize to you, Koby, because I did skip over you, and I mentioned that we both had a negative.
I don't know, Jimmy. Sometimes
Sorry.
I feel like you don't like me. Sometimes I don't know. It is what it is.
I like to keep you on your toes.
I'm a hard boss. I guess. I don't know.
So would you like to share a story?
Yeah, I kind of want to go into, it's kind of like a question too, because I dealt with it, but what happens when you're in a position at a company and your superior may come from somewhere else and they don't respect you. They don't have a reason to not respect you. You do well work. Your superiors and peers all feel like you do good work, but this person who's in charge of you just wants to be on your case and not respect you at all and not support anything or even look for that. What would you tell a person that's going through that situation? And then I'll tell you guys how I handled it.
I would tell that individual to be smarter than the other person, right? Don't fight fire with fire. you can outsmart a person that's being disrespectful to you. You can give it back to them tenfold and not look like a jerk doing it. In fact, you can be so subtle about it that they don't realize that you're putting them in their place, but everybody around them does. So that's how I would deal with it. And obviously, every situation is different. There'll be situations where you're being disrespected and you need to raise it to the next level. You need to take it to that person's manager or that person's supervisor or to the owner, right? Sometimes you need to elevate it, but you should always try and deal with it face to face and confront the issue by being respectful, right? I'm sorry, Koby. I don't understand why you're coming at me this way. You may not like me, but the bottom line is I'm doing my best to do my job. If I'm not doing my job well, then please just share with me what I need to do to improve.
Well, I'll tell you, this went on for 2 years. The first year I gave her the benefit of the doubt, and she put me on an IDP, which is an individual development plan, and told me that nobody would come off of it. I did come off of it, and then she put me on another one. Right? So that battle went back and forth. And the first year I was really trying to show that person that I'm a team player. My area runs, all my direct reports love and appreciate what I do for them. She was the only one that didn't. I'm saying she, but figure it out. But in the long run, I ended up having to fight for that. And in that fight, at a place that I love to work, I had to fight one person that I did not like. And I did win that fight because I got fired. They had to give that back, but they also offered my job. But my energy about it was out. I loved doing that job, but I did not like how I was being treated. So I didn't go back. Right. And so to employers, you got to really think about that. And is it a personal thing with that situation? I think it was more personal, or she was put in there to do a job and I was not being cooperative because I wasn't quitting and I was doing my job. Simple as that. But you got to recognize people where they are and just be honest with them, because had she came to me and said, hey, I don't think this is going to work out with us, and maybe you should find something else, I probably would have been more appreciative of that instead of being made out like I'm not doing my job. That's going to make me fight.
And it sounds like you did handle it professionally, right? You didn't go back at her. You dealt with the situation, and so you earned a lot of respect. You might not have earned it from her just because that's the person that she was, but I bet you earned it from your colleagues. I bet they saw how you were dealing with the situation, and they came to respect you more and said, "Wow, Koby's a good manager. He's able to handle this situation."
Yeah, I think that did come out, but I was out of my peers, I was one of the last people there. And as she went on her rampage and got rid of everybody one by one for whatever her reasons were. So it wasn't personal, it was a job, but at the same time, there still needs to be a level of respect in that process, because the people that you're affecting have families, jobs, and people that they got to take care of. And you're just going in there to do a job without any respect to that. And to me, I don't agree with that.
Yeah. And you and I are kind of in the same boat in that we represent the masses. We can't be perfect or as close to perfect as Lloyd is. So he probably you haven't had to deal with this type of situation, have you, Lloyd, where someone was disrespectful to you as a supervisor? Because you've always been the boss.
No, not always. I drove truck for a lot of years and took orders from a lot of people that didn't have a high school education. So yeah, I've been on all sides of that. But I did want to just take a step back. As I'm sitting here listening to both you and Koby, and I'm thinking to myself, almost with everything you're saying, it's impossible to disagree with any of it. It's so axiomatic. It's so true. It is so just completely right on the money. And I'm thinking to myself, well, why are we talking about something that it seems to me we can all agree on the importance of. And I think the reason we're talking about it is because it may be the single most important thing about relationships. I was thinking to myself, it's possible to respect somebody without loving them. You can even dislike them. And I had plenty of people who I respected, but it disliked intensely. But I still respected them for whatever they're doing. But think about the converse. It's impossible to love somebody if you don't respect them. And I think that this is just absolutely positively critical. And I would open it up to the two of you and to our audience, if you think it's important, to tell me a great story about someone who you disliked but respected immensely. It could be a teacher who was really hard on you. It could be a boss. It could be a coworker. It can even be a family member. You don't have to disclose a name if you want to or anything, but I would love to hear from each of you, somebody who you respected but disliked immensely, and the same for our audience.
Oh man, you go first, Jimmy, because I got one. I do have one, but go first.
Way to put you on the spot, huh, Jimmy?
Yeah, well, I had the answer, and it doesn't exactly fit your question. I respected my father tremendously. I respected the fact that he married my mother, brought us to the United States, was arguably the most instrumental person in making me who I am today. I have a lot of his characteristics, both good and bad. And I respected his desire up until I was a teenager to really guide me and provide for me the best that he could. I won't say that I disliked him, because I love him dearly, but I disliked a lot of the things that he did. I disliked the way he treated my mother, for example. And son and mother relationships are pretty special, and it pained me to see him treat her the way that he did. But as I have matured, I can understand that he was a product of his upbringing, and probably couldn't control to as much a degree as I would have liked the way that he treated others. But I disliked things about him, but I respected him a lot. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely. And I'm sorry for getting so personal with you. But it is a great motivating story to everyone that's out there. You can respect somebody and you still don't have to agree with them 100% of the time.
Correct.
And,
Great point.
yeah. And no, it's kudos to you for being able to recognize it.
Yeah, and mine's is going to go back to Mark Yarnell when I was in MLM, and I was on his team. He was no nonsense, pretty much. It was this way or no way, pretty much. And I remember I came to a crossroads because I love what he does for me, but sometimes I used to hate the way we got there. I came to a crossroads one day. I'm going back and forth with him, and he's telling me to do something a certain way, and I was like, I don't know if that's going to work. I'm just going to do it like this. And he was like, you know what? Let me know how that works out. And he just hung up in my face. Boom, he was gone. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to take a week. I'm going to figure this out. I didn't want to call him back because I didn't, just thought that was extremely disrespectful. But I think that it was done in a way that I needed, right? Because I needed help. And then once I was done, he came back, and I don't know, it took me probably a week and some days to call him back. And then when I called him back, he picked up the conversation right where he left it off. Okay, so are you ready now? Are you ready to listen? Right? And so it was lessons like that. I disliked his way of doing it, but I think it was needed for me in order to move forward in the way that I needed to. It was strong, authoritative type of lessons,
Right.
which I wasn't accustomed to because I was already a leader, which he says if you're a leader already, you're probably going to give another leader a hard time because you know which direction and where you want to go. So anyway, that was mine. Yeah, that was mine. It was very effective, and go from there.
How about yours, Lloyd?
I want to jump in here because I'm listening again to the two of you, and my story is similar in one respect. The thing that we have in common with all three of our stories, as you'll hear when I tell mine, is seems to be a lack of humanity. We're all how should I say this? The dislike, the objection seems to come from we don't believe that they're acting humanly enough. And I had a client that if the employee was more than 5 minutes late, he wanted them written up. If the employee had to go to a doctor's appointment, had to take her kid, he wanted everything by the book. And he was one of the toughest non-giving guys. I respected him because he made money. He ran his company efficiently. He retained his employees. But boy, did I ever sense a lack of humanity. And the same seems to be true as I'm listening to your story, assuming I have it correctly, that those were the same parts that you objected to in the people that you each respected.
Yeah, I agree. Lack of humanity, that's big, man. I think that if there's leaders out there listening right now, you always have to be human. That was one of the things that I prided myself as, upper level management. I mean, I was in control of managers as well as employees and direct reports, but I always came from the position of meeting them where they were or where they're at, and not from an authoritative position, but from a supportive position.
Yeah, and I'd like to jump in here. I respect our audience. I respect the fact that they participate. A couple of comments. There's a nice comment from Nancy that is absolutely spot on. There's a nice comment from Dale about forgiveness that's also spot on. Bonafide has jumped in. I respect all three of you and for the input that you have. So I'm going to ask that Koby go back to your comments right after our commercial. So our commercial again this week is for Waylot. What are you leaving on the table? Waylot is a company that has supported us from the beginning, actually. And they provide a service where they go in and they help a company analyze their operations from top to bottom. And they have a process that involves 251 questions. And through that questioning process, they're able to identify all kinds of revenue that's being left on the table just because it's not being paid attention to. So if you're a business owner and you would like to learn more about how to make more money for your company just from the resources that you already have, go ahead and go to waylot.com, waylott.com. Go ahead and sign up for a free consultation, and they will provide a preliminary assessment for you. And if you don't like those results, then you don't have to move any further. If you love the results, then you can go ahead and have them engage and find up to or more than 69 times the amount of cost that it takes for them to do that assessment. So that's waylot.com. Say hi to Brian for us. Koby, so would you like to share what's in the comments from Dale and Cultures Network and Nancy?
Yeah, let's just run through the comments. And actually, I'm going to put the number up in case anybody wants to call in. We can take some calls right now. Not mandatory. It's just something we're trying, so it's new. We haven't done this before, but if you want to call in and talk to us today, more than welcome to. But let's go back to the comments. And I'm going to start with Nancy's comment, I believe. Words do need to be chosen carefully, as it is so easy to come off as condescending or superior. It seems obvious, but it's king ownership. King ownership is important.
I think it's taking ownership.
Oh yeah, taking ownership is important. Yes, and I agree with that comment. I think that's one of the things as a manager that I would try not to be condescending. I would always try to come on the same level with my employees and not put myself in a different position as if I'm over them or in charge of them or whatever. I oftentimes was, but I didn't want to act that way. I wanted to act in a more respectful way. And in my experience, that allowed me to have really good employees that were receptive to what I was asking them to do in the job.
Well, I'd like to jump in on that. I know Nancy quite well. And so this is a different type of respect issue. Nancy is an angel on earth. She is one of those souls that just exudes compassion and love, and she just has a spirit about her that's very, very special. My experience has been that sometimes people like that get taken advantage of, and that they don't get the respect that they're due just because they're almost too nice. And I think that's why she made the comment that your choice of words is important, because words can help or hurt any situation. And so it is respectful to choose your words well and to think about what you're going to say before you say it, because you don't want to hurt people intentionally, right? So you need to take a second and just think about what you're saying, and make sure that it has the impact that you need to have on the person that you're talking to. And when you speak that way, that in itself is enabling you to earn the respect of that other person.
Yeah, I agree. Lloyd? You want to chime in there? Or you wasn't ready? I caught you off guard. Sorry.
No worries. I was just on mute. I think that is absolutely correct. I agree. I know Nancy. She is an absolute angel. And I think that respect, and as we're talking about, is just so critical in every aspect as to what's going on. Where would you like to go next, Jimmy?
I think that Koby would like to make a comment on Dale's statement about forgiveness.
Which one is it? I like when Jimmy throws me under the bus like I'm supposed to be ready.
Well, I saw that you had the comment up, so I thought you would talk about it.
No, I have Cultures Networks coming up, so I'm going to start there.
Okay.
So respect is always being earned, not given. Still treat you as a human being, though. And I know Cultures Network directly, Bonafide 100. Shout out. And I've had the pleasure of being able to do business with him and for him over the last couple of months. And I can guarantee you that he operates by that. He will give you respect and dish that out, but come with a disrespectful approach and watch how it gets shut down. Uh-oh. Shout out Bonafide, because I was like, whoa, I didn't know you had that in you. But anyway, no, respect is big. And let's go to the next comment. Sorry. You said Dale's comment on forgiveness?
Yeah, that was prior.
Oh, we got a lot of comments in here.
Yeah.
So he says, Jimmy, you hit the nail on the head. Forgiveness is always the avenue for understanding, and respect follows. Wow, that is a powerful comment.
It is. And again, understanding the person that came from, he believes that. Dale has a good understanding of people. And one of the things he understands is that you need to be able to forgive. You need to be able to put yourself in the other person's shoes and understand where they're coming from if possible. And if you do, then you can forgive their actions. And once you forgive, you can move forward. Until you forgive, you tend to be mired in the negativity. So thank you for that, Dale.
Yeah. Speaking of being mired in the negativity, it's not hard to do when emotion negative emotion is involved. And so I always try to tell people to just take a deep breath and take a step back. And I find myself practicing that on a regular basis. But I have accountability partners. Jimmy is one of them. My wife, I call corporate office, is one of my accountability partners, where I tell them, hey, if you see me doing this or getting out of line, I need that prod or hey, that's kind of inappropriate, because then it'll make me check myself and come back to normal.
Right.
That makes sense.
So let's talk a little bit about why respect is important. So Lloyd, what does respect foster in the workplace?
So, there are a lot of studies that talk about respect and talk about how important it is. We go through and it talk about how it actually boosts productivity and creative content together. It reduces conflict and improves teamwork. So these are some of the things that respect does, and we can talk about them. Again, it is just such basic common sense. We all know how much easier the conversation goes with somebody you respect. If you value their opinion, if you value their input, if you value their presence, sometimes there can be disagreements, but hopefully you can get through the disagreement because there is this underlying respect. Conversely, if there isn't respect, even a good idea is going to be lost. It is very, very hard to accept discourse from somebody you have no respect for. And so you have to find a way to try to get that back, to reach some kind of accommodation. And again, Jimmy, I find that often the first step is just simply to talk to the person, get the person aside and explain what the difficulty is. As Nancy pointed out just a little while ago, say, what can we do? Be inclusive and get them involved. You can also attract and retain talented people by showing them the respect. It enhances their mental well-being, makes them want to come to work when they believe that they are respected. It makes them willing to come. It makes the job more enjoyable. It enhances the overall experience. And finally, just one more, Koby.
Sorry.
No problem. When it all comes through, it improves the bottom line, which is, the whole idea of business to begin with. So you take all that and you weave it together, and it brings out the importance of respect.
So I got a quick question for both of you guys. What do you say to the person that's in a job, like how I was, that really love what they're doing, and they have no respect for the person that's in charge, or that's, the person in charge is disrespectful and you have no respect for that person? How do you handle that situation? Anybody?
Start with prayer. Pray for them and pray for you.
That solves a lot, but okay.
That's a really good question. Unfortunately, it's very difficult to control and manage your emotions in that type of a situation where you just don't have respect for the person that you are supposed to have respect for just because they're in a position of authority. I think that sometimes you have to suck it up, right? Sometimes you just have to accept that that's the person that they are. But you do need to protect yourself, and you do need to prevent them from running roughshod over you just because they're disrespectful of you and others. And you need not fall into the trap of returning the favor, of being disrespectful to them. I don't know, Lloyd, do you have any pearls of wisdom, any gems that we can throw down about how to deal with that specific situation?
I do, actually. The first thing I would tell everybody is that my wife is Colombian. and that we have family members that can take care of this. Koby.
And will.
I thought we were out of the shenanigans this week, but I guess not.
Yeah. In all seriousness, it's exactly what we've been talking about. Kind of like with my wife and me winning an argument, it's never going to happen. If the boss is disrespectful to you in such a way that he or she doesn't even value you, then there's no way that you can fix that. It's just impossible. You have to, for your own mental health, you have to seek a career change, and you have to do it while your sanity is still there and while you can get a good recommendation. So having said that, I will put in two caveats. The first caveat is if you believe that there is any chance of rectifying the situation at all, any chance, then I go back to what I said before, which is to try and have a frank and open conversation with him or her. You know, you walk in and you say, hey, look, I may be totally wrong on this, but from my end, it feels like it's not working. And is there anything I can do to make it work? Or should we mutually agree that it's not going to work and you help me and I help you and we don't say anything bad about each other? And maybe you write me a good recommendation and I'll take my leave. The second thing I bring on as a guy that has handled some employment litigation, and I will tell you to document. Just every time you feel disrespected, every time you feel that something is not going, put it down somewhere, not on a company email in case they lock you out of that. Put it down on a personal email or in a message or even on paper, but document. And I will say that in all the time that we have been here and we have been talking about employment and employment situations, that may be very well the first time any of the three of us has ever said that this is a lose-lose solution.
Yeah.
And I apologize to the audience for that and ask you not to kill the messenger.
Well, and I would throw in there that to not deal with it, to not confront that situation results in you being disrespectful to yourself, right? You owe it to yourself to stand up for yourself. And yeah, sometimes the end result is a very difficult decision, which is I need to find another job. This place isn't right for me. And I have no real control over that situation. So it would be disrespectful to yourself to not address it, to not deal with it, to not correct it if it's correctable, or leave it if it's not correctable. Because if you don't do that, invariably you're going to take that home to your family. They're going to suffer the reaction to you having a bad day at the office. And when it's a disrespectful situation, almost every day is a bad day at the office. And so you need to get out of that environment for yourself. You know, back to our adage, you need to be accountable to yourself for yourself. If you are accountable to yourself, then you'll make the right decision in that situation and be respectful to and of yourself by dealing with it and getting out of it or correcting.
And to add to that, if you listen to us at all or our conversations at all, we'll be the first people to tell you that when an employer says, hey, I need you to fix my employees, there, we have, turnaround or a large turnaround or whatever. Our first comment is usually it's probably your fault. And so since Jimi kind of teetered on that side of the employee side, I'm going to talk directly to the employers. And it's really about building that environment that breeds respect. It's about building an environment that's, good for your employees. They're there to help you do something. So practice active listening and empathy, which I've been learning from Jimi a lot as far as my listening, and trying to understand the other side of the conversation. A lot of times we come to the conversation and it's just about what we're bringing to the table. sometimes we have to stop that conversation and really put ourselves in the shoes of the other person. Give and receive constructive criticism. And I think the receiving part is really important. Being able to receive somebody's input that you may not like is very important because it could foster some good change in you. The next one is recognize achievements, and especially the small ones. We always recognize the big mess ups, right? We'll highlight those, but we don't highlight our small wins. That goes across the board. When on my teams, it didn't matter. I would highlight the small wins more so than I did the big wins. Everybody sees those. It's those little wins that get through, and that can cause a problem in your team or in your establishment of people thinking that they're not being recognized. Right. And then the last one that I have for you guys is establish policies that reinforce respect. If I'm a manager and I'm respectful to my employees and I'm leading by example and I instill policies that display that, then it's very hard for any of my subordinates or my managers that I put in place to, be in charge of people to get out of line because they're not following the map that I set for myself. That's it.
Excellent points. I would normally start with examples of disrespect and then follow it up with examples of respect, because I like to end up on the positive side of the ledger. But maybe each of us can come up with something that we know is disrespectful or that bothers us because we believe it to be disrespectful. And yeah, everybody knows my pet peeve.
I'll let you go last then, because we know what yours is. But so why don't you start us off? Why don't you start us off, Lloyd?
Okay. It's interesting, Jimmy, and feel free to let me interrupt often because I know you love that. It's your favorite, my favorite knock joke. Actually, Jimmy, the answer to both sides of that coin for me may be one of the best pieces of advice any guest has ever given us on this show. And I will say that too often the employer concentrates and realizes how important it is to get their employees' input. So they have meetings, they have a suggestion box. They tell the employees if they've got anything at all that they're interested. Maybe they have a website and they can post comments. But unless the employee actually feels like the employer is doing something with that, then the employee is going to stop. And it's actually going to hurt worse than if they didn't do it at all. Because if you take the time to put something out there and to get it out there because you've been invited to do so, and then the employer doesn't do anything with it, and I forget who was, Jimmy, that gave us that advice, but everybody gets to the first step, right? I'm guilty of it myself. When I had employees, I often solicited their advice,
Right.
but I didn't always follow through. And that made me a bad employer. And
we call that being an asshole. Don't ask me for advice and don't take it.
Yeah, exactly. And I was guilty. I was one of the worst. You think that by getting to that first step that you've met the requirement. I've shown my employees I care, right? I told them I want their opinion. I brought them into the meeting. Maybe I bought donuts to the meeting. Maybe I had the HR person there and said, hey, look, you have any suggestions? You don't feel comfortable to go to HR, go here, do that, and presented them with 5 different ways. But what I was horrible at was any of the ideas which I couldn't do. Maybe we didn't have the money. Maybe we didn't have the people. Maybe the clients wouldn't. I was really bad at communicating that information back to the employee, and that they interpreted as disrespect. and I never meant it that way.
I don't know where this is coming from.
Somebody jumped into our podcast.
All right.
Oh, I
I'm
know
going
where
to give them about 2 minutes to tell
I know
who
where
you
it's coming
are,
from,
where you
sorry.
came from,
No
and
problem.
what
Okay.
who you are, where you came
We
from.
really
That's-
were listening.
No,
to
that's
you,
my
Lloyd.
that's my project ending right now. So I had a
Okay.
project in the background. Sorry. Now I know not
No
to
problem.
do
No problem. I'm finished anyways. That's as I say, that's my answer to both sides of Jimmy's question.
Okay.
that. Not yet, Jimmy. Not yet. You're last, remember? He was getting ready to ignore me again, y'all. Y'all see that?
Not true. I was just getting ready to pass it over to you.
Oh, got it. All right. I like that cleanup, Jimmy. So disrespect.
Aisle
Disrespect is favoritism, ignoring input, belittling others, taking credit for work that doesn't belong to you. To me, that's in a work environment. And then some personal ways of disrespect that I think a lot of people don't realize that we're doing. And Jimmy knows we're interrupting while not listening, right? And not acknowledging people's successes, right? I think that's a form of disrespect as well, or just ignoring where people are and just being straight up unfair. But then now we'll go on with you, Jimmy.
Well, I was just going to say that sometimes you can show respect by doing things that you don't necessarily think are examples of respect. For example, when you, especially in an office environment, if you go through the office and you address people by their name, you automatically are showing them respect. You're showing them that you care enough to find out who they are, maybe a little bit about them, so that as you're going through, you create an affinity with that person just by using their name. Koby, good to see you today. Lloyd, how are you doing? You know, how are things with your grandson? You know, that sort of thing. Another thing that shows respect that you wouldn't normally think about doing it all the time is just to acknowledge other people's efforts. If you have a teammate, right, somebody that works with you, and they may not work in your department, but you heard that they just closed a great deal, then there's nothing wrong and a lot to be gained by going up to that person and say, "Hey, Lloyd, I understand that you just brought on AT&T as our new anchor client. Congratulations, great job," right? You're showing them respect for the effort that they put forth. Another way of showing respect in the workplace is when there are meetings, be punctual and be prepared. Being late to a meeting is disrespectful. Going to a meeting and sitting there like a bump on a log, and then when somebody says, "Jimmy, how did you do with creating the new work environment in accounting this past week?" And if I'm there and I have nothing to say because I didn't prepare for that, even though I knew that was my responsibility, is being disrespectful for everybody else that came to that meeting to be educated, to share information. It's also respectful to set your own boundaries, right? Set healthy boundaries so that people know that if every Tuesday at 2:00 you're going to do a podcast, don't call me while I'm on my podcast. That's important. You need to set boundaries in the workplace so that people understand what you do, who you are, and can be respectful of your time. And then you should always, especially as a leader, whether you have a leadership role or not, but especially as a leader and as an employee, lead by example and model respect. Just be respectful to others, because those that see you will see that being respectful is important to you, and therefore they're going to want to be respectful to you. So that's how you earn respect, is by showing respect. We are coming up on the end of the hour. Do we want to go ahead and do a shameless self-promotion, or?
He's laughing at me because he knows I'm up to something. You hear the music?
I hear it.
You hear the music? That means it's time to go. So I want to go. Well, we won't do a shameless self plug. We'll do a little one. We have another company called Podcast Excellence Academy. We'd love for you guys to go and join us over there in our community, because we don't just teach podcasting there. We teach personal development. We teach the tools that we use to get here, like building your funnel, your CRM. We use a program called GHL. We talk all about that. And we have other people in the room with just extreme knowledge that we can, share a fellowship with and grow with and do business with. So we invite you guys to check that out. So go to podcastexcellenceacademy.com and just go to the community and join. It's $20 a month, because you got to be accountable for your space. You pay for it, you're going to work it. So hopefully we see you guys there. But respect in the workplace isn't just about being polite. It's the foundation of trust, collaboration, and growth. When we treat others with dignity, we create an environment where people want to contribute, where ideas flow freely, and where success becomes a shared outcome. So I want to challenge everybody this week watching to practice one intentional act of respect, whether it's truly listening to a coworker, recognizing someone's effort, or simply choosing kindness in a difficult moment. Those small steps add up, and they set the tone for the culture around you. If today's conversation gave you something to think about, do us a favor, like this video, drop a comment on how you show respect at work, and subscribe so you don't miss the next gym training. Let's keep building greatness, excellence, and motivation together. It's been our show today. We'll see you next week at 2. Great employees matter. Greatness, excellence, motivation. Always be a gym.
Thank you, everybody. Respect yourselves, and others will respect you.